Well, today's video is a little bit of a blast from the past for me because we are looking at the full range of ATT products from Gardner Tackle. I remember when I first started carp fishing, I ended up pre-ordering a set of the underlit ATTS alarms and I couldn't wait for them to be released. So yeah, it's quite nice to actually have them all back in my hands today and we'll go through the full range because I feel like in recent years they've been a little bit overshadowed by some of the bigger companies with bigger marketing budgets. But it's nice to have some really simple products that do the job they're meant to do in my hands that we can talk about during this video. Now, it only seems right to start with what is probably the most popular of the ATT products, and that is the ATTS bite alarms. And for those of you that don't know, these are a silent bite alarm, which does sound a little bit ridiculous, but obviously you do pair these to a receiver, so you do actually get notified of a bite. We'll come on to receivers a bit later in the video because there's a few different options. As you can see, these are tiny. There's nothing to them, and that's because there's no speaker. Where there's no speaker, that basically means these are super durable alarms. I'm pretty sure I've seen videos in the past where these alarms have been fully submerged underwater and they're still working. So if that doesn't say durability, I don't know what does. It's not just because there's no speaker, it's because there's no buttons, there's no dials, there's no switches, there's no knobs. So it's basically a completely watertight unit that can't really fail you. You've got a little LED on the front here and you've got a roller wheel. And that's about it. When this rolls, LED lights up and then it tells your receiver that you've got a bite. It couldn't be simpler, and that's what I love about these products because they are so simple and they just do the job that they're meant to do. So they come with this little hard case here, and just inside this there's a little bit of metal which must correspond to something within the actual alarm head itself, because when you take this alarm case off, or the hard case off the alarm, that switches the alarm on. When you put the case back on, that switches the alarm off. So there's not an on-off switch, it's all based around this hard case. And when it comes to adjusting sensitivity, you can do this, but obviously not on the alarm head. You can change the roller. So there's various rollers available. The rollers with more magnets make it more sensitive, and less magnets make it less sensitive. So again, it keeps with that simplicity. There's not various button presses on the receivers or anything like that. It's just a mechanical way of doing things. And generally, there's less to go wrong that way. Now, there are a few variations of this alarm available. This is the original one, the one that comes with a black roller and a little LED to the side here. If I put that down, there are a couple of other versions. Now, I mentioned in the intro about the underlit version, and that's what this is. So on the face of it, it looks very, very similar, but you'll see that you've actually got a clear roller and no LED to the side. And you've basically got an LED just underneath the roller. And as you can see, it lights up the roller. So these are actually really cool. They're a little bit different, but at night they are actually very bright as well. So yeah, they're really cool. I like them a lot. I had them for years. I think I had blue ones, but the green's very nice. You can get them in various colors. This one, on the other hand, might not be to everyone's taste. This is the crystal version, and it works on the same concept as the underlit. Got a clear wheel, but obviously you've got a full clear case as well. And again, the LED is just underneath the roller. But what this does, instead of just lighting up the roller, as you can see, it lights up pretty much the whole alarm because it is clear. Now, during the day, they might not look the best. They're very niche, they're very niche. But at night, they do look really, really cool. So all of them run on the same concept. They're all roller wheels, and like I say, they're all simple. Like that's now on, put it back, it's off. You can't really ask for a simpler design than that. Like I say, you can change sensitivity just by changing the rollers themselves. Next up, we've got another blast from the past, and this is the TLB bite alarm. This is actually the TLB Plus, because the original Gardner TLBs were released in 1997 when I was 5. So quite some time ago. 20 years later, they released the TLB Plus, and that's what you see before you now. And again, it is very, very unique. It's very different, very out there, but it does have a proper old school feel about it. With the new release, they've basically incorporated everything that was good about the ATTS, put it into this casing, and given it a speaker and an on-off switch. So you've got all the goodness of the ATTS, plus you've got a little bit more functionality. If you're not sold on having a silent alarm, then this might be the next step up. Obviously you've got a little speaker, You don't have to use it because you can use this in a silent mode. So this little rocker switch, if you flick it up, turns on the alarm, but it's in a silent mode. If you flick it all the way down to the bottom, then that turns it on, and then you'll hear the speaker. So if I grab a little leaf, you can hear the speaker. But obviously this does link into the receivers as well, which I'll show you later. So you can use it in a silent mode and then have the receiver on, or you can even have the receiver on silent as well, because there's vibrate modes and all sorts, but like I say, we'll come on to that in a little bit. But yeah, it follows a very similar concept to the ATTS. It's a roller wheel as well, but the roller wheel is actually hidden behind some casing on this one. So with this, it just helps to prevent the roller wheels from freezing. Again, it's very few and far between that something like that would happen, especially in this sort of climate we have, but it can happen. So by having it hidden behind casing, that just helps to prevent that. Now the original TLBs were completely black and just like a black plastic, but these have actually had a bit of a freshen up where they've got a 3K carbon effect. And when I first heard about it, I thought that's going to look pretty tacky and cheapy. But in the flesh, it does actually look quite nice. On the casing for the roller, you've got a little bit of stainless steel, and then you've got silver screws throughout as well. So it does, like I said, it really fits into that old school sort of look, and I do quite like them. I'm using Nevs at the moment. They're quite an old school alarm, but I must admit, having a couple of these on the rods, they did look very, very good. Like I say, these can be used with the ATTX receivers, and when they've done a bit of testing, they actually had a range of up to 225 meters. So there's a really strong signal coming from these, and that probably brings us nicely onto talking about the receivers. Now within the ATT range, you've got two main styles of receivers. You've got the ATTX Mark II, or V2, and you've also got the ATTX Deluxe. So let's start with the V2 first. Both of these receivers can work with any of the alarms I've shown you in the video so far today. But starting with the ATTX V2, this can be programmable with up to 5 different alarms. So you've got 5 LEDs across the top here, each indicates a different channel. And as you'd expect, you can change the volume and tone on the receiver itself. And you can even use a vibrate mode. So if you wanted the receiver on silent alongside the heads, and you just wanted vibrate to keep as stealthy as possible, then you can do that. Now there's a few different options when it comes to buying these. You can buy them in a multicolored receiver, or if you've got, say, just blue alarms and you want a full blue receiver, you can also do that. So you can buy these receivers in whatever color alarms it is that you've got. Moving on to the ATT Deluxe receiver, as I'm sure you'd expect, this does everything that the V2 does and more. So you can actually use up to 10 different alarms on this receiver. It's got 10 channels, so it's obviously got the first 5 where if you get a bite, it will light up, and then you can reprogram the same LEDs where if you get a bite on rod 6 to 10, then these will flash. So you've got 10 different channels to choose from, and on each of those channels you can set its own tone. So there's 21 different tones built into this receiver, so you can have 10 alarms on it, each with their own tone. Now the other perk to the Deluxe receiver is, as you can see, you've got a little stubby aerial on top. So in comparison to the V2, you can see you've got a bigger aerial, and of course that's going to give you greater range. Like I said earlier with the TLBs, they have tested up to about 225 meters. Not that we ever say that that's a good idea to be that far away from your rods, but if you're in a heavily built or heavily tree-lined swim and you're in the swim next door, something like that, you're going to get the best possible range that you can from this and the best possible connectivity. Now, in terms of actually changing the volume, this is quite a nice feature on this one, that you can change the volume silently. You can step up. You might see that I'm changing through the LEDs here, and basically the further along the LEDs you are, the louder it's going to be. Further down the LEDs, the quieter it's going to be, all the way down to a vibrate only mode. Now these are slightly different in the fact that instead of buying either an individual colour or a multicolored receiver, you can actually change each of these little LED covers. So behind these covers, they're just a single white LED, and then you can actually change these. So if you wanted all of a certain colour, then you can do. It's one of them things that it's nice and easy to do, and you're only ever going to do it once. So that is the Deluxe receiver, and if you do have the Crystal ATTS, then you'll be pleased to know you can get a matching Crystal receiver as well. But if you don't have either the TLBs or the ATTS, then you can still actually use these receiver systems, and that is where this little package comes in. So this is a transmitter system. And the idea of this is your standard ATTX V2 receiver, but it comes with little dongles, and these are available in both 2.5 and 3.5mm jacks. So that basically converts any alarms that have got a jacking point or a power output to a wireless alarm where you can use a receiver. I remember years ago, I think I had Delcom EV Pluses or something like that, and had a set of these with the receiver, and it made all the difference. It means that you don't have to sell up the alarms that you're actually happy with. You can keep your alarms and just convert them to a wireless setup. Like I say, these are available in both 2.5 or 3.5mm jacks. And the other nice thing as well, if you've got one of these receivers, you can buy the dongles individually. So even if you've got a set of ATTS, but then you've got an old set of alarms that doesn't have a receiver, you can use the same receiver and you just buy a couple of dongles for the other alarms. So then you've got one receiver for all of your alarms. As you'd expect with such an extensive range of alarms and receivers, there are quite a few accessories available. And one of the first ones is this extended back for the ATTS alarms. So the idea of this is it basically just extends the snag ears on the alarm. And obviously if you're fishing in a lot of snaggy situations, then it's always going to be beneficial. And then this actually comes with a new case to incorporate the longer ears on the back of the alarm, and it still works in exactly the same way, where you've got a little bit of metal inside this which turns the alarm on and off. Moving on to the accessories for the receiver, you've got a little table mount, so the receiver simply slots into there and sits in place, so it's nice and easy to see everything that's going on, and you know you've always got a place for it. And then you've got various pouches, so you've got like a lever look pouch, and this has got a little clear window so you can see the actual LEDs, so if you do get a beep then you can see exactly what one is going. And of course you've got a little clip on the back of it as well if you want to clip it, hang it from your bivvy, clip it onto your shorts, whatever. That is a lever look. You've then got a neoprene one which is basically identical but in neoprene rather than leather, and then you've also got a watertight case as well. So this is really handy if you're like me and end up leaving receivers all over the swim, then you know it's going to be nice and waterproof. And you've even got a little speaker cut out there. Somehow it's watertight, but you can still get sound out of it. So very, very clever. And then you've got little clips on the back as well, so you can clip it onto things. But yeah, that is the range of accessories which go with either the ATTS alarms or the ATTX receiver range. And then finally, we've got a couple of little head torches to look at. First up, we've got the Pulsar, and that is your more traditional head torch. You've got a couple of different white modes which go up to 170 lumens, so they are very bright. And then there's also a red mode which helps to maintain your night vision. This is fully rechargeable, very lightweight at just 68 grams, and also water resistant, so very handy if you're on wet sessions but catching loads of fish. Next up, we've got the Capture head torch, and this is a very cool bit of kit which can be used as a standard head torch. You do get a little elasticated strap, but it's also got a little buckle here, or a little clip, where you can slide it onto your hat. So really handy, because if anyone's tried putting on a traditional head torch with a hat and then angling it down, you still can't see anything because the peak gets right in the way. So being able to clip it onto your hat, very handy. Again, you've got a few different white modes, and then you've also got a red mode and a red flashing strobe mode as well. Once again, it's fully rechargeable and it has a battery life of up to 18 hours, so it's going to last you ages. And I think that's it. I think we have made it through. That was a lot of products. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. Hopefully you found some benefit to watching this video. If you are interested in some of these products, then make sure you head over to the Gardner ATT website. Because like I say, the ATTS range, or the ATT range, is very, very cool and very old school. So if you like that sort of look, that sort of feeling, then definitely head over to the Gardner ATT website. Have a look at some of the other bits within the ATT range and some of the more specifics for each of these products. But thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.